It's not complicated. I look at the border problem as a national security nightmare for America. The threats to America are at all-time high from jihadist groups. We have a broken border, 300,000 people in December alone, up about 400% from 2020. Here's the key, I think. We're asking the administration to use Title 42 type authority to tell people we're full. It takes 4 years to get your asylum claim heard. We have 1.7 million people who are ready to be deported, but they just won't deport them. We need to send some people out of the country to stop the inflow. But Title 42 authority in the hands of any administration willing to use it would stop this. When you come to our border, we say, I'm sorry, we're full.
Well, at what number would you institute this? And just to be clear, this would allow for the expulsion of migrants without a guarantee of an asylum hearing. I'm sorry?
Okay, here's what, yes, okay, we turned people back because of COVID. We have a pandemic in the country. Our system is broken. You're going to have mayors talking about more money to help relocate migrants. We're not going to have a Remain in Texas policy. I don't know if Abbott will win in court having a state law to deal with this. I don't know if he will or not, but he's a desperate man trying to protect this state. So to the mayors, call up the White House and say, work with Republicans to change asylum, change parole, but implement a Title 42 authority that would stop the inflow. We're full. Don't come.
We'll talk to the mayors about that. They are actually asking the Biden administration for help. But are you suggesting here that there isn't yet agreement on expulsion authority in your group of negotiators?
There is. I am telling you right now, expedited removal is on the table. They want more exceptions to make the rule almost meaningless. We're having to pull teeth to change policy. This is not irregular migration. That's a bunch of BS. This is a predictable outcome of bad policy choices made right after Biden became president. We all said if you do a Remain in Mexico, you're going to have a run on the border.
Well, you know, the Supreme Court got involved in that, and that's complicated with the Mexican government too. But
no,
in the past,
it's not complicated.
Well, in the past,
it's not complicated.
Suggested in interviews that parole was a sticking point, specifically that part of the policy.
It still is.
Is it a deal breaker for you? What do you want to change?
Well, under our law, you're supposed to parole people on an individual basis. They're using humanitarian parole, a concept not even in law, to parole people at $145,000 a clip. I want to go back to the original intent of the law. I don't want to do anything dramatic. I just want to enforce the law. The asylum laws are being abused. Let's change them. Title 42 authority needs to be reapplied here on the concept that America's full. If you have to wait 4 years for an asylum hearing, let's slow down the asylum system. 1.7 million people are ready to be deported. Let's deport them before we let new people in.
So you said you were not asking for what the House was demanding, this bill known as HR2.
Right. HR2, right.
Exactly. Have you been talking at all to Speaker Johnson about what he would be willing to put on the floor? What is he willing to do?
Yes. We need policy changes that address the pull factors. There's nothing irregular going on in the world. This was created by policy choices that created new pull factors. Asylum reform, limitations on parole, re-invoking Title 42, I think would be enough to get it through the House. The policy changes have to be real. We have to start deporting people to slow down the inflow. If you see people leaving the country, people are less likely to show up at the border. So I'm urging the Biden administration, when Trump gets to be president, if he does, if you're here illegally, you're going to be deported. There's going to be mass deportation under Donald Trump of people here in violation of the law who've received a final order of deportation. They're going to be going.
Well, some of those have restarted in terms of Venezuela. As you know, there are a lot of complicating diplomatic factors here.
It's not complicated. Here's what I would tell the Biden administration. Accept the idea that we're full. Take the tools we're willing to give you to stop the inflow. Start deporting people here who should be, deported. Then you'll turn things around pretty quickly. To the Biden administration, accept the tools that will change things.
You said back in 2021, after the Senate impeachment trial, you said of Donald Trump, the president's conduct is subject to the law of the land. If you believe he committed a crime, he could still be prosecuted after he's out of office. Do you stand by that statement that Mr. Trump could be prosecuted and criminally liable?
Depends on what the conduct is. Now, if you're doing your job as president, and January the 6th he was still president, trying to find out if the election, was on the up and up, I think his immunity claim, I don't know how it will bear out, but I think it's a legitimate claim. But they're prosecuting him for activity around January the 6th. He didn't break into the Capitol. He gave a fiery speech, but he's not the first guy to ever do that. So at the end of the day, I think this case will not go to trial before the election. I think there are more legal issues around this than you can even imagine about what can a president do as president? What are the limitations of being president?
But to be clear, you do not believe that a president should be immune from prosecution if he committed a felony.
I don't make money from China. You do.
Well, it depends on, right. I mean, nobody's immune from the law, but you do have presidential immunity to do your job. I mean, I have immunity to do my job under the speech and debate clause. That's what the legal issue is. This went before the nation through impeachment. He got acquitted. I think January 6th is baked into the cake. I think the Jack Smith cases are not changing the political outcome at polling. We'll see what the court does. At the end of the day, Donald Trump is in a good position to win the Republican primary because Republicans believe he had a good presidency, and I think he can win the general election. And all these, like in Maine, knocking him off the ballot. The Secretary of State in Maine is a pretty radical person. She said the Electoral College was a product of white supremacy.
No.
You ain't black.
No, it's a product of negotiation. Civil War was about slavery.
They're going to put you all back in chains.
The Electoral College was about negotiations between small states and large states.
Well, and with all this will go to the courts as you're laying out there. And
Right,
we're going to talk
will.
about that. Senator Graham, good to have you with us.
It's not complicated.